Hello, my name is Meredith, and this is my presentation for the brief but brilliant presentation for Dr. Sears' Diversity and Aging course. When I first decided what it was that I wanted to discuss, I had the intention to discuss the naturally occurring retirement community. And when I started on the venture of looking for information, I had run into quite a few research articles that talked about, just in general, this concept of aging in place and aging in community. And so I decided to take it back just a step and look at the different areas where older adults can age that do not include living in some type of a facility, either an assisted living facility or a skilled nursing facility. That also discusses the diversity within these areas that older adults age. As a general note, it is about 3 to 4% of the United States that actually are in skilled nursing facilities or assisted living facilities. So that does not include the 96, 97% of those older adults who live somewhere else. They could live with family members in multi-generational households. However, pretty much in the United States, multi-generational households are not a common occurrence, especially within European American communities. And when I talk about skilled nursing and assisted living facilities, because many individuals just automatically think of nursing homes and assisted living, and I always encourage individuals to look outside of those facilities and say, but older adults also live in houses that are surrounding those facilities. And so this is this concept of where older adults can age, and the intention of aging in place or aging in community. There are a number of different manners in which the older adult can do that. One can be through the village to village network. Another can be through a university-based retirement community. A third can be through co-housing. And then a fourth, which is what I had originally intended to speak entirely about, are these naturally occurring retirement communities. And then there are NORCs with SSPs, which are supportive service programs. First, the village to village network is one where it is mostly volunteer based. There are some paid individuals who are employed by the nonprofit organization that is set up in that village. So for example, there is a neighborhood in Boston, and this is the original village to village network. It's kind of where it started. A neighborhood in Boston called Beacon Hill. And at Beacon Hill, there were individuals, older adults, who said they wanted to stay in their house or in their apartment, the place that they were living. They wanted to stay there. They wanted to have some service amenities and some social gatherings. So the village to village network idea was born. And this idea is that through the connection of the members of these village to village networks, because there are membership fees to belong to it, then they are partnered with agencies or partnered with individuals who offer free or low cost or discounted services. So for example, if Bob has a van And Bob has the ability to make a number of trips to the grocery store for gas money or for some grocery cards. Bob will give rides to 10 individuals to the grocery store throughout the week. There may be handyman or handywoman services that are made available at a discounted rate. Some individuals may need to just have a light bulb changed or a series of light bulbs changed, but they can't climb a ladder or climb a step stool. And so they get in contact with their village to village individual who represents the organization, and then they'll get in contact with, or they'll give the member the information of the service to get in contact with. It is a volunteer first model, and it is a grassroots program that is run by trained and for some paid volunteer, or excuse me, some paid staff, not volunteers, paid staff, and they are the ones who are coordinating those village-wide programs and activities. Most villages have geographic boundaries. So just think of it as if there are 5 houses and the residents of those 5 houses are over the age of 60. And those residents in those 5 houses who are over the age of 60 say, you know what, we want to stay where we are right now. Let's see about getting together and coming up with some ideas on how we can take care of ourselves together, not just separately and not just as neighbors, but as participants in this idea of keeping us in our house. So somebody may know or have a family member who can install a zero entry shower for one of the individuals, and they can offer it at a discounted service. The village to village network is one that is now starting to grow a little bit each year. There are about 250 open village to village network organizations in the United States, with about 100 in the process. There are 6 in Columbus. There are 4 in Cleveland. And then there are some that are just kind of smattered throughout the state of Ohio. I believe there might be a few down in Cincinnati, but for the most part, those are the larger concentrations. So if you start to pay attention to a theme here, and that is more urban, suburban areas, predominantly white, predominantly middle to high income individuals. The second type of organization is a university-based retirement community, and these are going to be located close to a university. And there are 96 in the United States right now. By 2020, there are more that are being built. However, by right now it's 96. The individuals who live there have access to campus activities. They have access to campus services. And I looked to see what my alma mater, the University of Kentucky, whether they have one, and they do. It's called Limestone Crossing, and it's located on Limestone, which is, if you're at all familiar with Lexington, that runs directly into the University of Kentucky. They have access then to medical services. They have access to state-of-the-art medical services, especially within the UK medical system. There are a number of other UBRCs throughout the United States. Typically, the individuals who live here are going to be donors to the university. So therefore, we are looking at middle to higher income educated individuals who are going to be living in these UBRCs. Co-housing is another option. There is the Co-Housing Association of the United States. It was established in 2006. This is an intentional community. So a UBRC and co-housing are intentional. And then the village to village is intentional in they gather together and they come together as wanting to seek services for their village members. This is also planned and designed by older adults. This also is middle to higher income, majority white. Also, very few are disabled, and it is also privately funded. Village to village network individuals are going to have to be able to mobilize and get around pretty much on their own and complete their own activities of daily living. There may be some with assistance. They may have some home health services that come in that are arranged by a third party outside of the village to village network, or they possibly could be offered through that network. But for the most part, these are independent living individuals. Then there is the NORC, the naturally occurring retirement community. These are unplanned communities where adults are just basically growing older in the area in which they live. And here is where this theme that is running through is prevailing again. This is in an urban or a suburban area. These are typically not found in rural communities. These NORCs respond to the needs of the communities, and what they do is they bring together housing managers, service providers, older adults, and the community partners. There is the development of community activities and volunteer opportunities within NORCs. And most NORCs, actually about half of the NORCs in the United States, are in New York City. And that should probably be of no surprise because of the diverse neighborhoods that are in New York City and the different boroughs. And so what has happened is that individuals are staying there and living there and growing old there. And so these naturally occurring retirement communities have developed. The NORC actually began in 1980. That's when it was actually recognized. And about 50% of the residents are the age of 60 and over. So that means that 50% are younger than 60. So it's a multi-generational living arrangement or living community. A majority is in the suburban and urban areas. This is a spontaneous community. This isn't as if somebody moves to it or it is built. It's not an intentional community, it's spontaneous. There are horizontal NORCs, which means they are single, semi-detached or attached housing, or vertical, those high-rise apartment complexes. NORCs offer some services, but they're mostly social activities. And then born from that is the NORC SSP. The NORC SSP, pardon me, my computer just jumped up 2 slots there. The NORC SSP is going to be one that is available to individuals who, there we go, I went way too far on that, is available to individuals when they need some case management or some social services, and those are brought to the NORC. So housing, food assistance, transportation assistance, those types of things. And these are partnerships with government agencies, philanthropic organizations, as well as healthcare providers. So sometimes you will see in some NORCs, healthcare providers go directly to where the resident is and provide services to them. They may be checkups, they may be well visits, they may be unwell visits. So those are the types of services that are provided. This fills service gaps. So for those individuals who rely on services such as meal assistance, maybe they don't qualify for Meals on Wheels. So it provides a service gap for those meals that are offered through the Administration on Aging. Also services that are offered through the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid and other state agencies where they're not able to provide those services to these individuals, or the individual is not able to get to the service because they don't have transportation. Penn South is actually the original NORC that is SSP, and that is in New York City. And actually it is 10 high-rise apartment complexes that has been identified as a NORC SSP. The diversity of a NORC SSP, majority of the individuals are single or they live alone. It is multicultural, it is multilingual, and there are low to middle class or low to middle income individuals who live in these NORCs. They do have lower education. It is the most racially and ethnically diverse of the AIP models that I have talked about. Some benefits that have been identified for these NORCs or of these NORCs. Social isolation decreases, social interaction increases. They are effective at linking older adults to services that are going to allow them to age in place. In one survey that was conducted of the NORCs in New York City, 95.4% of the participants of these 50 NORC SSPs said that they found that they were linked successfully to these services, and so they were able to stay and age in place. It also improves volunteerism. Individuals who live there want to volunteer and they want to help their neighbors as well. 70% of the participants stated that they felt healthier and that they were more likely to stay in their community. About 88% said that they were more likely to stay in their community. So what role does the social worker have in all of this? I have listed out just a few. On the micro level, the social worker is a strengths assessor. This individual would go in and work with clients and identify what the client's strengths are as they are aging in place. What are some of the things that they are able to do? Maybe they might be able to volunteer and help their next door neighbor who can't cook, but they are able to mobilize around their kitchen and are an excellent cook. They also provide needed assistance to help maintain the older adults' autonomy, which is a huge issue for older adults who are trying to age in place. They want to remain independent. Nobody wants to have somebody come in and say, you can't live here anymore, and then they have to leave. That is one of the biggest fears of older adults, is having to leave the place in which they are living and leave that independence behind. On the micro level, also developing those relationships between the community members, like I said before, where we might have somebody who is able to link one individual with another. On the meso level, we have the individual, the social worker can be the manager of interpersonal relationships between the family and the adult who is trying to age in place. And maybe those families live there with the older adult, or they live in the same apartment complex. They also are able to share the vision of what aging in place means to that older adult. And the older adult says, I want to be able to do these things. I want to be able to take a shower on my own, and I want to be able to, I don't need that assistance. And so that can be something that's shared with the family. And also getting family and friends involved in the aging in place movement, which then can take us out to the macro and the policy aspect of the social worker's role. On the macro level, the social worker can be a manager of interpersonal relationships with the community partners, with the social service agencies that are going to be there to provide those services to these individuals who live in these NORCs. And this can be actually for any aging in place, but traditionally where we see NORCs, or where we see social workers, are in these NORCs, as well as in some of the village to village network systems, but more on a macro and a policy level. Leveraging community assets, as well as volunteer and member participation. And on the policy level, a lot of these are grassroots initiatives, and a lot of these need to have somebody who is a good collaborator within these grassroots initiatives, somebody who has a lot of ability to see things through, a lot of follow through. Local leadership education, as well as local leadership and education, of the community. And that on a policy level can be just kind of the stepping stone, the starter of what does aging in place look like? And do we have communities that we can consider an aging in place or an aging in community area, as well as advocacy for long-term care policies and reform. Because as I stated in the beginning, we have about 3 to 4% of the population in long-term care, and that more than likely may grow because we have more individuals aging out and up into the population of needing assistance. So we are waiting to see where those numbers go, but they have not traditionally, There have not been like leaps and bounds jumps up as far as that is concerned. Okay. So future practice, this is my final slide, and I apologize that I'm a little bit over, I'm sorry. They are NORCs and NORC SSPs are predominantly located in urban and suburban areas, as are village to village networks. Village to village networks also tend to serve middle to upper class older adults. So what we need to do is look for those horizontal NORC systems within rural communities. I believe that it absolutely can be done. I believe that there are a number of diverse populations within neighborhoods that we can look at that diversity as far as the aging individual is concerned. If we look at 60 and over, and that would be conversations with community partners, talking to the mayor's office, talking to city council, talking to the planning commission, and trying to understand how can we start looking at these neighborhoods and then see about bringing the services to those neighborhoods. So we need to meet the client where they live. We need to look at how can we best serve these rural communities. And these communities also need to be active participants. It just can't be the grassroots collaborator, social worker, or group of social workers who are trying to establish this. It has to also be on the community side as well, because there do need to be some partnerships. There also need to be partnerships with local agencies on aging, as well as the local social services. That is the end of my presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it. These are my references. And as always, not as always, I didn't say as always. Well, anyway, I was going to say, as always, you can always ask me any questions. Please feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions. That's what I meant to say. Thank you very much. I appreciate you listening to my presentation.